I would like to introduce Shannon Susko. Shannon is an expert in strategy and execution. She is well known for her ability to lead and execute with her team in implementing a repeatable strategic execution system, creating it in her first company and validating in her second company by the speed in which the company was built and sold. She now coaches CEOs and leadership teams from around the world who want the same success using the same system. Shannon founded her CEO coaching and worldwide speaking business in June 2011. She is the co-founder of Metronome Growth Systems as of January 2016, which is a cloud-based business platform for high-growth businesses, their CEOs, leaders, and business coaches. Shannon is the co-architect of Ace Tech's market validation program and the architect of Ace Tech's growth strategy program. In July 2014, Shannon wrote and released Amazon best-selling entrepreneurship, The Metronome Effect, The Journey to Predictable Profit, coined as the street version of the best-selling book, Scaling Up. Shannon released her second book in April 2018, which was recognized an Amazon bestseller, new release, Three Hag Way. Shannon was recognized as one of Canada's top 40 under 40 and was awarded the Sarah Kirk Award for Canada's leading women entrepreneurs in 2006. It is my pleasure to introduce Shannon Susko, CEO, leadership, team coach, author, speaker, and serial entrepreneur.
Wow, that was awesome. Where did you get all that from?
You are you are very accomplished. I've done my research and I see that you are very accomplished. And I want to talk a little bit about the accomplishments and where you started and how you got there.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. I was like listening to that and I was like, wow, that's pretty good research. Starting out on my entrepreneurial journey, as most of us do, we start when we're really young. Like, as a kid, we've got that sort of idea to do things. And that was no different for me. But I really got going on building high growth companies after I finished school and joined up with a few partners, 3, to create my first business. And I think probably our incredible naiveness of how to build a company was why we actually started the company. And it's okay to have that. We just thought, yeah, we saw an opportunity. We thought we could fix a problem that was in the marketplace and we thought we could solve it. But there's so much more to it than that, as we learned. So my first business took 10 years to build. It was a global payment processing business. We leveraged the internet at a time where, today anyone listening would go, yeah, whatever, the internet. But this was like when payments didn't go over the internet. So this is like late 90s. There's a whole lot of hype and not a lot of real, I'd say automatic, hands-off processing. At that time, there's a lot of, yeah, we took the order, but then there's 10 more people touched it kind of thing. But so we did that. That's where we started. We learned a lot in that business. And I think the only thing I was hoping for in that business was maybe like the secret to how to build a business, to how to build a high growth business. And I was coached. I was a very young CEO in my 20s, and I had a coach, and I kept asking leaders and coaches, and frankly, read so many business books on someone must have wrote down a system, like their system. I really didn't care what system it was that would make it a bit easier to balance growing a company, growing a team, and having a life. And that sounds a bit weird, but in your 20s, yeah, you have lots of energy, but I was still looking for that. And I was very grateful. Maybe I wasn't handed that solution because everything since then has been all about giving back, learning, growing, giving back some more, learning and growing. And my first business took 10 years to grow. We met what we call our big, hairy, audacious goal, what Jim Collins coined. And we sold it on our 10th anniversary. And we sold it to a US company. And, people like that technology, that platform, it still exists today. Team members of that time still work in that organization. So great, good story. But the big learning came in that company whereby we were just floundering, struggling to figure out how do we tie everything together to get the momentum to grow. And when I say tie everything together, it's like, how do you ensure that the team's cohesive, that it has a culture, that there's clarity, that there's a strategy, and we have an execution plan, and we have our cash figured out, and we know where we're going to end up. And we learned a lot from many thought leaders, but it was the commitment of that leadership team. I was very grateful for this global leadership team that came together to build the company, though we had to agree amongst ourselves that we were going to do this in a way that would be repeatable, that we were going to create our own system because we couldn't find one. And so we did come together, we created a system, we leveraged lots of thought leaders. One you mentioned in my intro was the author of Scaling Up, and his first book was Rockefeller Habits, and he wrote a book, his name is Vern Harnish, and he wrote a book that brought a great tool towards us, which simplified us being able to write down our plan. But writing down the plan is like 1% of the problem. Actually getting the team to behave and execute the plan and to work together to common goals is the tougher thing. And I think that's where we started. We built a system, we put it in place, we said, yep, great, we sold it, we got the value from the company, we moved on. And within a few years, 3 years of that sale, we decided to build another company. This company was global. This is like a mouthful, what I'm going to say. It's a global automated compliance platform for broker dealers, right? So think of every trade that happens out there. Somebody has to look at that, trade that was done, a buy or sell, and make sure it's within the rules of the marketplace that, the trade was made. And so in 2008, I would expect that was automated, that every broker dealer out there, it would be automated. It wasn't at that time, as I found out. And we created a company and a platform, another, technology platform that broker dealers could use in order to make sure all those trades were in compliance with the rules in the marketplace. And so we took, and that's nice, okay, so we solved another problem in the marketplace. But the thing that was great about it is that we got to take the system, the repeatable playbook that we used for our first company, that we put in place and got the sale. We were able to, save time, come together as a team, decide on what we're going to do and then work towards it. When we think about that, we got to take that same system, not the exact same team, probably only half or less than half of the team was the same, and apply it to that company. As co-founder of that company, as the CEO of that company, and we actually implemented the system. And the system allowed us, to actually grow up the company, create more than probably about 100 times the value of the first company, and do it in a third of the time. So, okay, so people go, yeah, that's nice, Shannon. You've got this playbook. You used it in your first company. You now have used it in your second company. Awesome. And you've sold those companies. And the interesting thing is each of the acquiring companies adopted the playbook and the system. So I thought that's interesting. So we're a 100-person company. In our first company, we get bought, we become a 400-person private company. The leadership team, and I was part of the leadership team, but not the CEO, we put the system in place. And that company sells in some years down the road for $500 million. So not nice. And team's still there. I know that system's still being used even through these acquisitions. And our company gets, we were on 3 years old when we got bought in our second company, but we were one of the top 3 mid-market deals on Wall Street that year. And it's because our acquiring company actually valued the company because they believed that we are in our predictions of where we'd be in 3 years. And so they valued us quite high because of that. They didn't value us on our past 3 years. They strategically valued us on the future. And again, same system was used, different people, and we get acquired in by a public company this time again. Not only did they, integrate everything we had into their organization, but they also integrated the system, the business system. So I think that's pretty interesting. And I retired after that time. It's now 2011. And I retired and I, decided I'm retired. I have 3 young kids. I live in Whistler, British Columbia. I still do. Wanted to enjoy the outdoors, the skiing, the mountain biking, the riding, hiking, and my kids and my family. And so I actually, really retired, I stopped. But soon after that, I got this call from a fellow CEO in Vancouver, British Columbia. And he said, I just watched you build one company. And then I would just watch you build a second company, and you sold these companies. You did this less than 6 years apart. I've been building this company for 15 years, and I've been slogging along, and I just can't get any momentum. I said, oh yeah, that's nice. Oh yeah, great. I'm sorry to hear that. He said, you must have done something different. I would love to hire you as a coach. I was like, a coach? Like, what kind of coach? He's like, like a coach that would coach me and my team. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. I said, I definitely started with a CEO only coach when I became a CEO. But I asked that coach to be a CEO plus leadership team coach plus team coach. And so I thought that's interesting that, he was already aware that it's not about a CEO getting a coach, it's about getting a team coach. So I was like, that's interesting. What would that mean to you? What would the outcome be that you'd want and all these things? And so he told me everything. And he said, I really want to use your system. And I knew we had a system, but I wasn't sure it was going to work unless I was the CEO. Right. So I said, yeah, we do have this system. And I definitely, we've leveraged the system 4 times. But 4 times I've been on the team somehow, either CEO or executive. But, I just wanted to say, look, I haven't coached like this, and I'm not sure the system's going to work. And so I did set up everything. Well, long story short, that system, I did go work with the team. I did bring the system in. They tell 2 friends because it works and so on. So, I ended up going, okay, so I will be a coach. I will coach. I'm still, gotta, recognize that my family, time, balance, and all that. So I said, I'm going to coach 6 companies. So I ended up, through word of mouth. I didn't have a website. I didn't have a business card. I sort of prided myself on that because I was retired. And so sure enough, I have 6 companies from all over because people are telling 2 friends, and I'm sort of getting picky and choosy about those who I will coach. But it didn't serve the true purpose, which is how could I help leaders who were as desperate as I was to grow a company, right? How could I help them? I could only help 6 at a time, coaching them sort of one-on-one. And so, I was part of this ACE Tech group that you talked of earlier, and that you said, and, I had helped build a bit of a program for early stage companies even before I sold my second company. And I went to them and I said, maybe we should put a program in for many CEOs and leadership teams. And maybe we could just run it every year, and people could just join in, and that would get to sort of many more companies than just the 6 I could coach, and that would help more. And so we did that program, and hugely successful. I still work with ACE Tech as a coach. It's a bit of a give back because I grew up as a CEO in that environment, learning community and all of that. And so gave that back. But the interesting thing is that now hundreds of CEOs were using it and it was working for them. So I was like, oh, okay, so this does work. It doesn't really matter if I'm involved or not. They're taking it back into their organizations. It's working. So I'm thinking, okay, great. Hearing lots of success stories, all good things. And, I'm meeting more coaches now as time goes by. It's, 2013. It's only been a couple of years since I've been coaching, but I'm meeting more coaches. And there's groups, Rockefeller Habits, Vern Harnish has a group scaling up. So I met some of those coaches along the way. And I was one of those coaches. And so, you know what? We learn, we apply, we learn some more, we apply some more. And so those coaches started asking a little bit more about some things that I would say along the way that maybe they didn't know about. And I, wouldn't think much of it. I'm like, you have your system. I've got this system. We're using the same thought leaders. We're good. And then, it got to a point where many people started asking. I said, I'm just going to write it down. I'm just going to write down prescriptively what we did as a CEO and leadership team and just lay it out step by step, like I was looking for in 2008, what I was looking for in 1998, 99, like I was looking for that. So I wrote down our experience building the companies that we worked with from that point of view of a CEO and leadership team. That's the book, The Metronome Effect, which is done amazingly well. And it was so prescriptive that the publisher said, do you really need to keep writing down these steps? And I was like, yeah, no, we do, because someone's going to open the book and go to that section and just apply pieces, and they're going to be like trying to work things out. And so we wrote that book. That book did amazing. It actually attracted, like I wrote it so that people, not meanly or anything, but like would stop calling because I couldn't help them all. Right. I wrote it so that they could read it and, leverage it and just tape the the prescription and apply it to their business. And so lots of people have, and amazing, but it actually, more coaches read the book as well. And it actually attracted more coaches who wanted to know like this system and why I thought this way and how did it work and all these things. And so I was like, it's all in the book. I honestly, there was just no more time of the day. I was like, there it is. Good luck. I wrote down everything I know, but I left out actually one piece. And this is what happened. More coaches came. I still, had my clients. I was speaking. I was doing lots of great things and trying to get that one to many, right? So if I could tell many people the story and like get them to think differently, that they can save time, have a balanced life, use a repeatable playbook, like that would be great. Like I think we just think, oh, it's really hard. And this is the, result I'm going to get. Not that exciting. It's okay. I'm going to slog along, like that first CEO said. And I just think that, let's not do that. That's really hard, not fun. It's no fun to win. Like you just, when you're losing all the time, you can say, look, here's what the win is, and I'm going to get there. Great. So more coaches were attracted to this system, which is really cool. I had no expectation of that. And someone asked me, they say, you say this thing, the 3 hack. You say like a 3 hack, like we all know what it is. And I was like, well, don't you know what a 3 hack is? Like it just came out of what we were doing and building our company. We had that 10 to 30 year goal, that big, hairy, audacious goal that Jim Collins put out there. And we had our 1-year plan and we had our 90-day plan. And I said, the thing that actually tied it together was this 3 hack. They're like, well, what is that? And I said, well, it's a 3-year highly achievable goal. And I said, what you want to do is you want to draw that line in the sand with your team. No different than any Olympic team would do. They always write their 3 hack on the Olympics. And then they go, look, we have 3 years to get there. What do we have to do every quarter to build the team to be prepared to win our Olympics? And so we did that as well. I came from a heavy athletic background and we did the same thing. We worked together as a team. We said, this is what it's going to look like in 3 years' time. Here's our strategy. Here's our plan. Let's map it out. 12 quarters, 36 months, let's put it out there. So what I learned is not many people did that at all. And actually, quite frankly, less than 1% of the people did that. Maybe it was just me, frankly, that did that, which is actually pretty funny at the end of it. But coaches were interested in it. So I said, look, here you go. You know, like I'm retired. I'm having fun. Here you go. Leverage it with your clients. And so they did, right? I didn't teach it. I like nothing. I just gave it to them and they did. And I was at this growth conference and, you know, with a lot of coaches and one of their clients was up on the stage and they were being interviewed on their incredible growth. And they asked, so tell us about this incredible growth. What was it that, you know, like is the turning point of all this growth? And they said, well, it's all about the 3 hag. And I was like, oh, wow. Look, I was in the audience. I was like, that is so cool. And I'm looking around for which coach's client is that? That is just so great. And the coach's client that it was, they raised their hand, they like waved to me. And I was like, wow, that is so great. So after that day, I decided, well, that's a huge impact. Like that makes me so happy. I got to write this down because I didn't put it in to the metronome effect because I don't know. I guess I thought it was a bit obvious. And I thought people already had it. Like I thought they were already doing it. And, you know, I leveraged some other tools and, you know, but what we learned is, yeah, no one has a 3 hag at that point. And many thousands upon thousands of companies now have a 3 hag. I'd say tens of thousands of companies have 3 hags since 2018. But so we wrote that down, published the book in April 2018. And I was like, good. Okay, I got it all out. Off we go, you know, bestseller on Amazon in many countries. I was so happy with that. And then what happened is it attracted, I'm trying to do one to many, like, here you go. It's prescriptive again, like to the point the publisher said again, why do you keep writing this down over and over? And I was like, you got to follow the steps. There's a flow. You got to honor the flow. And so they're like, okay, just leave it. And, we work through it. The most interesting thing is that it attracted more companies. Okay, I'm on that now. I understand, write a book, attract people, but it attracted more coaches. And the coaches actually wanted to be certified in this methodology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, really? Like I knew, about 40 coaches reached out. And I was like, it's all there. It's written down step by step by step. Like, I think you got it. Like you can leverage it and other coaches you should do it. And they're like, yeah, but we think that you might give us a bit more insight. Like definitely read the book, definitely using it. And I was like, I just don't think you need to be certified. Like really. So I blew them off for about 3 months. And then my own team came back and they said, we were doing planning for the year, and my team is little, right? I'm talking me and 2 others, right? But we follow the methodology and we're doing planning for the year. And they said, look, our core purpose is all about ensuring that no one was as desperate as you were to grow a company. I go, fair enough. Yeah, it's about growing up others, growing up the CEO, the leaders, and getting them to wherever they want to go. Making sure they grow themselves, their team, their business, and their life is balanced, right? They're happy, all that good stuff. So I said, okay, yeah, you're right. And they said, well, what better impact would be than training the coaches on how to do this? You'll have an exponential impact. We'll have an exponential impact. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Thinking, do I want to engage in this? Because it means that, yeah, I'm going to create a community of coaches. We are going to collaborate. And everything I'm saying is so funny because that is an amazing thing about what we currently have today is we have this amazing community who knows the system, who, across all continents around the world. And we have this global group of coaches. And so I said yes. And in September 2018, I started training coaches, started in Australia. Then I went to the US. Then I did some in Canada. I did some more in Australia, Canada, US. And I did some in Central America. And then I did some flew over from the Europe and the UK. And so now we have over 90 coaches around the world who use this system. And the funny thing is they originally got trained in the 3 hag way. And it definitely, everything in there sets out your strategy system, connects it to your execution system. But after we had these coaches on board for a couple of years, they said, "You're doing something more." I was like, not really. I said, "I'm doing what you guys are doing, right? You got to make sure there's a culture, strong, clear, known. The team is highly cohesive. There's clarity of the, how the team plays together and their positions and what's expected and what they're accountable for. They're clear on the strategy, execution, and cash, and that, we're going to grow these leaders into coaches. So the CEO will coach the leadership team will coach their team, and we'll cascade this out." And they said, yeah, we know about all that stuff, but they said, "You're doing it in a certain way, and they said flow, a certain timing of it." And I said, "Well, maybe, I don't know, how do you guys do it?" I just assumed, again, they might be doing it sort of in the same flow that I was doing it. And, we learned that they were doing all the same pieces, but not at the same time, not at the same order, and not maybe honoring humans, because the system is human. A 3-hag, if you can imagine writing down where you're going to be in 3 years' time, it's very human to not actually want to write that down. Mm-hmm. Because when you write it down, then you're either going to be wrong or you have to do it. Right. It's like saying, I'm going to go to the Olympics, I'm going to get on that hockey team, or I'm going to be a runner, or whatever it is. As soon as you say it, you got to map how you're going to get there, right? So it's a commitment. So it's very human. Teams are very excited, and it's very much just spreads throughout the team. And so Metronomics is my third book. It got released in June 15th. It was on the day it was released, it was bestseller in Australia, bestseller in Canada, and the US. And that has a little bit to do with the community we have, but it's available worldwide, hardcover, softcover, ebook, and Audible. But the thing is that those coaches said, "Can you just write down the flow? Can you write it down? How does it work? Why does it work?" Just because they all had their own ways of doing things, but they could see that I saved time and my clients saved time, and they were consistently reaching their goals in an exponential way, right? The same growth I had in my first company, clients get. Now all our coaches' clients are getting that, right? And the other piece that they thought was interesting is, one of my oldest standing clients is 10 years old. Now, coaches say to me, "Why would a CEO plus leadership team need a coach for 10 years? Don't they have it yet?" And I'm like, well, name me a professional winning sports team that doesn't have a coach, that doesn't have a repeatable playbook, that doesn't have a scoreboard. Yep. So Metronomics brought those 3 things to business. And we are, it's a system for the sport of business. And the one thing common between any sport you can name out there and the sport of business is humans, people. And it's set up for the same team atmosphere and the same plans and the same collaboration and the same better, faster decisions as, any team, football team, hockey team, basketball team. So it's really amazing to me when I think back to my first company where I started this very long story, is I was struggling trying to figure out, how do I balance team and how do I balance business and, of course, our lives, our team members' lives. Because if you're a professional football player, you don't play football 20 hours a day like a lot of budding entrepreneurs. You just can't, right? And we shouldn't either in business, because it gets us very out of balance and very cranky. So I always think about, the journey I've been on, especially the last 10 years. As I said, I'm retired, but everyone goes, "You're not. You are like doing stuff all over the place." And I go, "Well, how about this?" I made up a word. How about I'm prior? Priorities. right? It still serves the core purpose that I had as a CEO, which was always to grow up people. But this one now is I get to, grow myself, grow the teams I work with, grow, the coaches that we work together as a community. We get to grow up thousands of companies and tens of thousands of team members. So it's been just this incredible journey. And the whole thing gets back to, the very first, day or two of growing my first company, asking my coach, like, can you like tell me a system that we can use? Do you have a playbook? Do you have a playbook? And he really didn't. He had built, he's a very successful entrepreneur, built 5, 6, 7 companies, hands in many, like sold them, went on to the next one, but didn't have that one playbook that was written down. And so Metronomics is that playbook. And we wrote it in a way to, explain like what people want and have empathy for that, because I certainly experienced that. And then what the outcomes should be, right? We did painfully, like the other 2 books, step by step, quarter by quarter. We even timed it out to say, here's how it works all together, stay within these bounds. And then, we finished it off with sort of like trust the system kind of framework at the end, because it's human. And if we follow the flow, honor the flow of the system, human beings will just grab hold of it. It's no different than, like playing on a team, right? And we're playing towards a championship. The same thing will happen in business if we honor the flow and recreate that flow. So that's a very long story of where we started, but that brings you right up to where we are right now.
Wow. That's a journey. And just
that's a journey.
You just wanted Tom to get out on the skis.
yeah. That was the goal. No, I still get to ski a ton. I would never give that up. And that's one of the things when I was challenged in my first business. I've lived in Whistler, British Columbia for 32 years. And so the reason why we were there and building a global business out of there, and we've grown 2 out of there, was to live where we wanted to live, was to have the life we wanted to live, but not hold us back and not, make an impact to the rest of the world. And I think the one thing that really gave me back the time, if you go to the very tactical bit of time is the scarcest resource. If I ask people, what's holding you back from growing up your company? So many people say time. And so if we take a repeatable playbook like this, it'll give you back time. And like lots of people chuckle when I tell this story. In the early days, it was to give time back so I could ski more, so I could enjoy the outdoors more. And then, you get married and then it's like, okay, I'm going to have kids. So I had 3 kids less than 3 years apart, no twins. So there's no way I could have pulled that off, being a company CEO, pulling off having the kids, and then, obviously bringing the kids up. I have an incredible husband who like took on that role, but there's no way physically you could even pull that off unless there's a system like this in place. When we just put in the first, and if anyone's listening in and they're like, how do you get started? Right? There's such simple things that get started. In chapter 2 of the book is how do you just like practically, tactically, kick it off? The one thing is, if you just follow what's in that chapter 2, how to kick it off, it'll give you about 40 hours back in your week individually. 40 hours. Like, most entrepreneurs, most leaders, and you don't even have to be an entrepreneur, like all entrepreneurs are leaders. So let's just talk leaders. Most leaders are putting in too much time into the business. And that's like, most people go, what do you mean? I go, well, you ask anyone, any like leader of any size business, they're working 60, 80 hours a week. That's a lot of time.
Definitely, yes. And the thing about it is, at this moment, it's normalized. people are saying that that's, as an entrepreneur, that's what you should be working to be successful.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, I mean, 9 times out of 10, the reason you became an entrepreneur was to not clock in, work, party,
Right.
you know. So that's a conundrum.
It is a
If you
conundrum.
ask me.
And that's the one that, when we built our first company and we agreed with the co-founders, we're doing this in Whistler, British Columbia. We're going to be a tech company in the late 90s. Everyone was like, what? What are you doing? Like, who are you guys? We were like the third largest business in Whistler at that time. And we were a tech company, right? And they thought, that's crazy. And I said, not really. I said, because people want to work hard, obviously, and play hard, that cliche.
Yeah.
But they do want balance, right? They do want balance. And it's hard to get balance. There are many times, like I was, like unbalanced in growing up companies. But I can say it was in the early years of my first company when I didn't have a repeatable playbook, that I didn't have that guide. And, I want to add the other thing that I think is so important that many people miss and don't invest in. And the weirdest thing is like everyone goes, oh, you just say get a coach because you're a coach. And I go, well, actually, I don't say that. And they go, oh, how come? I said, I always say get a coach because I was coached.
Yeah.
And that coached was the blind spot remover. And that coach saved me so much time. And so when I think of, I run into leaders all the time and I ask them what their support network is and do they have, peers and where are they learning? What's their community? But I always ask, do you have a coach? And some will say yes. They have like a life coach, a personal coach, even a CEO coach. And I go, oh, that's great. I go, but do you have a team coach? And they always look at me like, what? A team coach? I go, yeah, for you and your team, because everything you're learning out there, it's then up to you to bring back into the company. That's really hard. That's really hard. And most are not, cannot do that. I'd say probably 90% of CEOs out there are not able to do that. It's hard. It's so much easier to have an outside party come in and say the things that you want to say but can't say.
Definitely.
Definitely.
That was one of my questions that I did want to ask you was how imperative is it to have a coach as far as business is concerned?
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I mean, that takes away a lot of what I've heard it called as dummy tax.
Yeah.
So the coach takes a lot of that away. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. And, everyone thinks, so I grew up, really growing up software platforms. So business model is software as a service and growing those up in financial services. And most people think because I have that background that I must coach tech companies.
Yeah.
Like none of the companies, I can't think of any companies none of the companies I coach are software companies, not software as a service companies. And everyone says to me, well, how could you coach a manufacturing company? Or how could you coach largest exporter of something in the US? Or how could you coach? And I said, well, it's actually better that I don't know anything about their business. I know a lot about how to grow a team to win, and they're experts at their business, the hard edge. I'm an expert at this playbook and getting it into the company. And frankly, I get to ask the stupidest questions that maybe people are afraid to ask or they just haven't thought of from an outside perspective. And when I'm an expert in a company that I coach, I actually can't ask stupid questions. Right? You just can't because they expect you. They're like, aren't you the expert? Shouldn't you know that answer? And, my expertise is coaching, right? And getting the best out of the team towards the, goals that they commit. And so lots of people, say, do you have a coach that knows XYZ? And I go, I'm sure we do. We have coaches that know so many genres of business that come from all, walks of life. But I said, it's really about fit, meaning a human fit with a the CEO plus leadership team coach and the team, and that you align no differently, like with the core values and the behavior and all of that. And so when I think about team, like any leader out there, most of my, I'd say all of my clients today that I coach, I'm the CEO plus leadership team coach, I'm the team coach, and most of them have their own sort of executive coach, life coach, personal coach as well for themselves. And I'm coaching the team on the field. And why we have Metronome Growth Systems is it's a platform. It's the open playing field. It's a behavioral accountability platform, no different than the soccer field is, or the basketball court, or the ice hockey rink, right? When we get on and we're playing on a team and we get on those fields, those where we're going to play the game, our behavior is a bit different. And so in business, it's really hard to create the playing field. So we created a playing field that everyone can see one another playing together every day. You can ask for help, you can offer help, you can see the score, right? And you can really, it's such a key piece, because when we play a game, even as spectators of any game, we look at the scoreboard 1,000 times during a game or more. Almost every minute, people are looking at how much time's left. What do we need to do to win? And then they're going to make better, faster decisions. Well, so teams need that too. So Metronome Growth Systems is a platform that goes with that repeatable playbook. And together, with the coach, drives that balance that leaders are looking for. And so that's what Metronomics has pulled back around. And so all the coaches out there, what are we passionate about? Giving time back to the leaders. Right?
Wow. I've never heard it put that way. I've never heard it put into, I've heard blueprint, but not really as far as playbook and sports. And that's an excellent way to put it. The fact that you're all on the field and looking up at the time clock and having a goal set, the 3-hag. So the 3-hag, let me get this straight. The 3-hag is different than the BHAG because it breaks it down into smaller pieces.
Yes.
So this is your working out and your cardio.
Yes. Yeah, and all the big milestones that you have to hit along the way to get there. Because if I think of, say, any hockey team going to the Winter Olympics that's coming up here in China, they started, they didn't just start training now and going, oh, we're going to go to the Olympics, right? They started training a lifetime ago. But to this Olympics, they picked a team. They probably had a team picked 3 years away from the Olympics. Then the coach set out, they had their process. They set out their plan of what they need to do, what they need to win along the way for the last 12 quarters. They're just entering that last quarter, that their 3-hag quarter, because the Olympics is in February, and they're just entering it. And they're hoping they did everything they possibly could to win their Olympics. And so I always say the 3-hag's about winning your business Olympics. And in the business, competing with someone else to win your business Olympics. But your business Olympics, you're actually competing with yourself to win the business. Okay, this is what it's going to be 3 years from now. We all believe this is the right thing. It's going to get us to where we need to be, the growth, who we need to serve, our core purpose. And the big thing around that is then you're going to just march towards that. And your business Olympics is what you say the win is and nothing more. And most people are afraid to say what their win is going to be 3 years from now.
It should be the BHAG.
Yeah.
It should be something pretty big that you want to accomplish. And speaking of that, just yesterday, I was going over my mother's house to have Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
And I said about a quarter mile from my house, I said, oh man, I forgot to get the tea. Yeah. So there's a specific tea that I like, and it happens to be Milo's. I looked on your website. Yes. So, so I looked at your case study on the
Yeah.
Milo's tea. And so
Yes.
that was very interesting. Is that a company that you still work with?
Yeah, I do still work with Milo's Tea. Love Milo's Tea, by the way. And it's such a great story because this is their 75th year in business.
Wow.
Third generation CEO, who I've worked with them. I'm just rolling into my 5th year working with them. They have more than doubled in size since I started working with them. I think they're closer to tripling in size. And the interesting thing is that's that's the hard edge, right? How are we going to grow the business? And like, putting in their 3 HAG, and they kept putting in a 3 HAG and kept getting it there before 3 years was up, which is great. Lots of companies do, by the way. And the big thing around, that whole story with Milo's, and it's a pretty similar story with lots of companies who put this in place, because it's about growing up your team, right? And bringing your team and the culture and the design and the accountability and the clarity of the score. And the more we did that, the more the team comes together and drives. Like, I love going. Like, I'll be going to a meeting here with Milo's in a couple of weeks, and it's just fun. By the way, it's just a whole lot of fun, because their ability to focus from the CEO through to the leadership team on what the team score is for Milo's. I think it's beverages, right? They're producing beverages for, ensuring everyone enjoys them, right? Get it on the
Yeah.
table, enjoy the Milo's moments. And, once we could actually break that down, cascade that through the organization, what an amazing difference. But the number one reason why it worked and works with Milo's is that the CEO plus leadership team made a commitment to evolve their behavior. You got to think, I started working with them when they're just over 70 years old. Like, most people listening in go, why would they need a coach?
Right. And they're
Right?
set in their ways, like after
Yeah,
70
yeah.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they were committed to where they wanted to go, committed to, the system. It was human, made sense. And then they've been committed to cascading it through the organization. And, hats off to all of Milo's, because they are just amazing in their willingness and desire to just, honor the flow of building a team and, committing to team goals.
Okay. The growth is excellent. That's when you put it in sports terminology, like reaching goals is like the ultimate thing,
Yes.
First you want to get a win. You may want to score a certain amount of points. Then you want to score more points. Then you want to
Yep.
stop the other team from scoring as many points. So
Right.
every time you can touch or one of those goals, there's a reason to celebrate.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that you just said that. And that's one of the most important things. If we don't set them, even on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, there's nothing to celebrate.
yeah,
But the more you set them, the more you celebrate them, it creates the momentum that you need. It's so human.
right, right. So as far as a coach, let's just say we open your book, we read your book. You have the leverage because you have grown these businesses to
Yeah.
exit and have um, been able to sell them. So how would a coach reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want to teach your program"?
Yeah. So they can reach out to us through our website, which is metronomeunited.com, and they can apply there. We have been blown away at the interest of coaches from around the world who to come and join us. It has just elevated our game, and that's what it's all about. We're learning from one another. It's one of, it's probably the biggest benefit is this coach community that has grown out of this, because we are helping each other get better, and in turn we're helping so many clients. So metronomeunited.com, there's an area that says coaching. You can hit just apply to be a coach, want to be a coach button. And if you're a company looking for a coach, same website, metronomeunited.com.
As far as coaching is concerned, you should really start an affiliate program, because just to send people your way,
Yeah.
just, I mean, you have the credentials, so it would be like, hey,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, definitely. So a piece of advice, if you
Yes.
could, what is the importance, or is there an importance, as far as coming from a coach, a business coach, the importance of working from the end goal? And with me saying that, starting from an exit strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's the number one thing, that most people will only put out their end goal that they can, like, they're for sure going to do it. Right. And I'm from a perspective of, I'd rather you put out, that's why I love Jim Collins' big, hairy, audacious goal. I want you to put one out there like huge, like people will laugh at you kind of goal. That's
Yeah.
like 10 to 30 years out there. We did it in every one of our businesses as well, and we did that. Got us there was then taking what I call the 3 hag as a stepping stone. That truly is risky enough and scary enough, but it's not a year away. It's 3 years away, right? So you can reach out and touch it, but you have to then go take a deep breath and go, I'm going to map our way from here to there. So I'm a huge fan. I definitely grew up goal oriented and grew up going, yeah, I want to do that. But I wasn't the willy-nilly around, I'm going to, be an astronaut and just say that, and it never happened. Whatever I said I was going to do, I then had to figure out, that's 10 years. What do I have to do in 1 year? What do I have to do in the next 90 days? And what should I do this week? And that's how, that's just inherent in me, but that's how, this whole system works. But that's why I'm a work back. It's always that work back plan. Makes it real. And then we can get our heads around it and go, convince ourselves we can do that. And
I
that's what we
like
have
that.
to do.
I like that. You working from the end goal backwards. And the fact that when you say it, as you said earlier, once you say it, it's out there. I've heard that it's
Yeah.
out in the universe. You're either
Yeah.
going to be wrong about it, then you're going to be upset with yourself because you're like, I'm not even getting to where I need to
Yeah.
be. I'm not doing what
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not doing this cardio every day that's going to get
Yeah.
me a championship.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a definite. So I would like to get a copy of your book. I would like for all of my listeners to have a copy of your book. Where can they find your book at?
They can find a book in any version you can think of off of Amazon, actually, Amazon.com, Audible. Please grab a copy. We would love that. We'd love your feedback. I would love your feedback on it, because that's how we get better.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And where can they find you at? Your YouTubes, your talks?
Yep. So YouTube channel, metronomeunited.com. We have a LinkedIn group, metronome.global, a LinkedIn group. We have a Facebook group, metronome.global as well. It's pretty active. It's been really fun because we're getting people from all over the world. We're getting their feedback. We're learning, they're learning. So it's been really, really active. And I think, by now in this conversation, you probably recognize, I'm still learning. And the more we share with other people, the more we all learn together.
Awesome. Last question. What qualifications does a business or a business owner have to work with Metronome United?
The only qualification you need is you need to be able to commit and have the willingness and desire to actually reach your goals. That's it. You need nothing more than your pure desire to actually get to another place. Whatever that place is, it doesn't matter. There's
Wow.
nothing more than that. You just need to commit.
There you go. There you have it. Need to commit. So I want to thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Super fun. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I will. What I'm going to do, I'm going to order your book. I will read it, and then I will circle back, and we're going to do another interview because I have more insight on the book and what I read.
Beautiful. I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a great day and
Yeah,
enjoy your
you
weekend.
too. Yeah, thank you. We'll
All
talk to
right.
you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.